What's going on, guys? Happy fight week. Doing a little something different this week. We put a couple videos out. We actually put one video out, the normal video with me and Anthony doing Inside the Distance, breaking down the main card, running through that. I also threw a boxing video about Canelo Alvarez, the whole cherry picking situation on the page. But for a big card, we bring on a big name, somebody who every week you guys know about, because on our show, we do Showdown's dog pick of the week. So I figured, why put a graphic up? Let's bring out the queen herself, and let's break down a main card together from a DFS perspective. Christine, what's going on?
Nothing much. How are you?
Good. What's shaking? You ready for this card or what?
Yeah. Born ready.
We got your dog pick of the week all set. We won't say it now, but we do have it, right?
Yes, we do.
All right. So you guys, that's why you guys asking on the other show, where was it? Because we were going to do it on this show. Let her present it herself, give her reasons why. So basically how this is going to work, it's kind of the same thing as we do it Inside the Distance. I'm going to talk about the fight. I'm going to break it down from a visual perspective, and then I'm going to pass it over to Christine, and she's going to talk about it from a DFS perspective. So we're going to do the main card, and then obviously we both agreed that the Bo Nickal fight, there's really not much to break down, right, Christine?
No, there's not much to break down.
I mean, she's going to break it down from a quick DFS perspective to let you guys know certain things about it. And then we decided we're going to pick a fight on the prelims to talk about that we're really intrigued in. So you'll find out about that one a little bit later. So stay tuned in. All right, so we're going to hop right to the main event. Yeah. Big fight, Volkanovski, 9,200, Yair Rodriguez, 7,000. Before I get into the breakdown from a DFS perspective, Christine will explain this to you a little bit better. You know, from the number-wise, 100-plus points for Volkanovski, 4 of his last 5 fights. Current market value, 4 of his last 5. So he's hitting at an 80% clip on DraftKings. Obviously, he lives in 3 rounds. It gives him the benefit of the doubt with that. Yair Rodriguez, 7,000, 2 of 500-plus. Current market value is 4 of 5. So he's hitting that kind of punt range at 7,000 at 80% clip. This is also, obviously, a 5-round fight. So both of these guys have their way number-wise, if they win this fight. From a prediction perspective, like when I look at this fight and I look at it on film, you know, and cut me off anytime, Christine. Anytime, cut me off if you don't agree with me, if you see something.
Oh, I will.
Seriously. So with Volkanovski, a lot of people, the first thing you got to look at with him is a lot of people, the first con they look at it with him, they say he's smaller. He's a smaller guy. He's got small stature. But in his entire UFC run, in his career, he's only fought one guy that had a longer reach than him, which is very bizarre. He's got a very, very long reach. So a lot of people look at guys like Yair and some of these longer fighters, and they're like, well, these are a longer rangey guy if he can do this and if he can do that. Well, Yair Rodriguez does not hold a reach advantage in this fight. They are actually 71-71. So that's deceptive when you're in the cage, when you see a guy that stature and he's got that range and he's got that reach. If you look at Yair's record, like look at all the guys, and you know we don't like going back more than 5 fights, right?
Right.
But if you go back into this guy's career, who are the guys who really had like success with him, opposed to the guys who didn't have success with him? You had guys like Jeremy Steven and Josh Emmett who are kind of just like plodding fighters. You know what I mean? They had that like normal cement shoes on. And then the guys like Frank Yair, you know, those type of guys, the guys that put on the pressure, the guys that like pushed the pace on him and made him fight in chaos, but like a structured chaos, he had trouble with. Even Zombie, when he fought Zombie, he really was on his way losing that fight. And I don't care what anyone says, he kind of got lucky with that up elbow that they highlight all the time. So it's really a stylistic matchup to me that I just personally don't see him having a path to winning this fight unless.
Yeah, he's not really a versatile fighter either, is my main issue with him.
Well, I just not that he's not versatile. I just don't think he's got the physical attributes to be able to stop the bullish ways of Volkanovski. You know, you got to remember Volkanovski.
He can't keep up with the pace or the volume.
Yeah, he's tricky. You know, so he's tricky. That's what made the fight go a little bit longer. But if you look at the stature of Volkanovski, the style of Volkanovski, the well-roundedness of Volkanovski, I just think it's going to give Yair problems. I don't think he's going to be able to really, from a physicality perspective, do anything to Volkanovski that Volkanovski can't do with him double. So my pick here is Volkanovski. I'm going to say Volkanovski late Inside the Distance. I think both of these guys hold value. You know, all right, here you go. She's not agreeing with me already.
No. I agree with the pick. I think it's possible to go to distance.
Yeah, no, great. So go ahead. So talk to us about a DFS perspective. Does Yair hold any value at 7,000?
He has scored 83 points in a loss, but I do understand what you're saying. And it's also 5 rounds and he's 7K. So, I mean, you're not going to want to fade him completely because he is going to stay in the fight for at least 2 to 3 rounds based on what we're thinking. So it's not a complete loss because there's going to be people in that range or at a higher range that are going to get knocked out really quick and they're going to get the 0. And then he could possibly do something, so I wouldn't fade him. And he has scored, extremely decent in a loss before. I was even thinking in a decision that he could get 40 to 50 points in a decision, is my opinion. Volkanovski, I love him. I think he's paying off his price tag candidly, should have a lot of volume, set the pace, and he should win.
Okay, so I told you I wasn't going to put you on the spot. I'm actually am.
You're killing me.
With one question,
let's hear it.
because it's a
hear
question that everybody gets. We get this all the time in the Discord.
You can't help yourself. All right, let's hear it.
No, because I just thought of it. You ready?
Yeah.
You know my answer to this, but let him hear it from you. Is this fight stackable?
I would say in cash, it's possible, yeah.
Okay, it's possible, but GPP
definitely not.
Okay. So you're saying don't fade Yair. I agree everything you said. Don't fade Yair.
Unless you need the salary. I don't know who is lower than 7K. There's always a couple that are lower than 7K, but if he's like, yeah, we go all the way down to like 6,400. I was gonna say if it's like a salary dependent thing because there's so many people on the higher end on this card that can potentially get there. That could be it, but I wouldn't do that. No.
Okay. All right. So I think we're both on the same page. We both got Volkanovski to win. And I think from a DraftKings perspective, I don't even need to add anything to that. I think you kind of nailed that perfectly.
Thanks.
Okay, next fight. This is the fight for me. I don't know about you, but this is the fight for me that's a little personal. And I think this is actually the main event for me. Moreno Pantoja. And the reason why I say that is because I've been a big Pantoja guy for a long time. And this is a guy who just never really got his shine. Still doesn't really get his shine. He reminds me of the Roberto Duran of MMA. This is a guy who's just a real bullish fighter, a chaotic fighter. He'll get in there, he'll get dirty with you. He's not much of a talker. He's not much, for social media or for interviews, which obviously everybody likes today. So he doesn't really get that push. But if you look at these guys, and this is the one thing I urge everybody not to do, whether it's wagering or DFS, me and Christine, we all do this in our Discord and on our community. We try to tell you guys never go back too far because these guys change from not only like in the last 3 fights or 4 fights, but they change by the year. So a lot of these people are looking at this at a rematch and are looking at it and they're saying, well, 70-something% of the rematches, the person who won the first time wins. You guys got to remember, like, these guys are not the same fighter they were when they fought the first time in 2018. In 2018, if you watch his fight, if you watch Moreno's fight against Pantoja in 2018, and you watch Moreno fight against Figueiredo now,
they look like teenagers.
It's night and day, the skill level of Moreno. Night and day. It's not even the same. You got to remember, when Pantoja won that fight, Moreno left the UFC, went on to another circuit. He came back to the UFC, and that's when he went on his run. So these guys
even
aren't
his
even
physicality, he had like little chicken legs in that fight, and he's just built up his strength. He's built up his physical stature since then as well.
He's become a lot more mature as a fighter. He was always a very good slick grappler, very wide on his feet, but he does carry that Mexican pride. And a lot of people make fun of me for saying that, but there are fighters that really do possess that. They have that Mexican, and he really solidifies that whole Mexican pride thing. His striking is good. His chin is good. His grappling is good. So this dude just doesn't go quietly at night. The problem I do have with him is he's been stuck in Figueiredo world for way too long.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
4 of his last fights are Figueiredo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got a guy at Pantoja now who does Moreno want this fight back? Yeah, he wants this fight back. He wants to get that fight back. But this is a fight where Pantoja says, I beat him in 2018, even though that means nothing. And he's saying to himself, like, this guy made the run, this guy got the title, and here I am. Like, it's my turn now. So to me,
Right.
this is just a fight where I think Moreno is a completely different fighter. I think Pantoja is a different fighter too, but I just think Pantoja just is going to bring a little bit more. He's going to be able to dig a little deeper in this one. I think he's a little bit more hungrier. I like his grappling better. I don't like his striking better. I think his striking is a little too chaotic at times, and he leaves himself open.
Yeah.
But his grappling, I think, as good as Moreno's is, I think that's where Pantoja can really have success, because he's got good inside trips, he's got good takedowns, he's got
And he's just relentless,
and he's relentless. So I do
Yeah.
like him in this fight. You're looking at 8,700 for Moreno. You're looking at Pantoja 7,500. Moreno's hitting 0-5, 100 plus. His current market value 2 of 5, so he's only hitting his current market value at 40%. And Pantoja is 2 of 5, and the current market value 3 of 5. So he's hitting at 60%. So what do you see on this number wise?
I definitely agree with you with being under on Moreno. I don't see him getting there points wise to meet his salary value. And I also like Pantoja. So I love that play. I think at 7,500 is super solid in that range, especially for the style of fighting that he has with his heavy grappling style. If he's relentless, so he's going to get the ground control time. He's going to get takedowns. He's just going to keep going for it. And that's what we like to see for DraftKings is, every takedown 5 points or what have you. So I love that play. I love the price of that. I wouldn't stack this fight at all. But I don't like Moreno's price also because, Volk is 9,200, Moreno's 8,700, and for a fact, Volk is more likely going to get there. You have Whittaker at 9,100. So he's just, for me, and for what I've seen from him, and I also agree with you with the Figueroa thing. I don't like the fact that he's only fought him so many times that it's hard to gauge how he's going to be with other people. And yeah, I agree with you with all of that.
So that was my question for you that you kind of answered on the fly. This is a 5-round fight, championship fight that you would not stack.
I would not stack this fight, no.
So you would stack the Yair and Volk fight over the Moreno Pantoja fight if you had to.
Yeah, because I think the Volk Rodriguez fight is going to go to a decision, and I don't see. I think they're both durable, and I don't see a finish there. I know you do in the late rounds, but but I think their volume, both fighters in that fight, is a lot higher than the volume we would see in a Moreno Pantoja fight. In order to get the points that would make stacking sensible.
So from a DFS perspective for Pantoja, would you consider him like one of your stronger 7K plays?
Yeah, I mean, without giving
too much. No, I'm going to tell you, we both picked him, so obviously he's a strong play. But you got the 5 rounds, you got 7,500. With a win, even in a 3-round fight, 7,500.
Even in a loss, if it went to decision, or I don't see Moreno finishing him. I think Pantoja has great scrambling ability, and I think he's extremely durable. So I don't see him getting finished unless it's in the late rounds, at which point I think he would still get enough points to make it okay.
All right, so pretty much stabilize your lineup in a loss. All right, I agree. I don't got much to add to that. So I don't really have anything to add to that. I think you perfectly said.
Thank you.
Next fight that I'm happy to see one of them fight, but I could care less about the other. And I think that, I don't know if you echo this, but for me, I've been saying it for a long time. There's just certain fighters that are out right now that I don't find to be good. And I don't think Plessis is a good fighter. I just don't.
I'm glad that you said that. I don't think he's a good fighter.
There's guys that are good fighters out there listen, there's guys that I don't think that are good, that people think that are good. There's guys that I think that are that people think that are great. Like Hill. I don't think Hill's a championship caliber fighter. I don't. I'm sorry, but I don't. I don't think he's a championship caliber. I think he's a placeholder for the division, and he's an okay placeholder for the division. And I know
he's made the most of his opportunities. But
I don't think he's a guy that we're going to remember. We're not going to remember Hill. You know what I mean? So it's like Plessis is a guy.
Well, I think we'll only remember him because of the illegal knee thing. It's hard to forget that.
Yeah. Or the snapped arm. Remember when he snapped it? Remember he snapped his arm?
Yeah. He has moments.
Yeah, so when I look at this fight, I say, all right, so this is a guy that I was never high on. The guy's got cardio issues. The guy, he's really not great anywhere. He's okay, in certain spots, and he gets by, he wins fights, but he's beating guys that are like either not good or they're okay. But now he's
Right.
making this big jump to Whittaker. So I'm not going to talk about this a lot. I'm going to go right to the DFS end of it. I'm just going to say the only path that I see him winning this fight is if Whittaker gets old overnight, he ends up getting caught, or he's coming in with some kind of injury that we don't know about. Outside of that, Whittaker has no
Why
business.
why would you even think, is there some sort of anything to do with an injury with him?
Well, he's always something. So, like, but if you remember, if you look at his track record, he's always riddled with an injury or a sickness or something. Like that's what kept him out of the game for so long. But
Right.
when you look at like Robert Whittaker, it's the perfect thing that we always say, how soon people forget. Do you realize that people pick Jared Cannonier over this guy? Like
Yeah, it's
how insane is that? Like, I'm
yeah,
not
that doesn't
saying
age too
now, but
well.
then they pick Jared, all because of that. So there are going, in my opinion, there are going to be people that pick Duplessis. I really do think that.
I think that's, in my opinion, I don't think that's a good play.
Terrible
Even as
play,
a,
I think.
yeah, even as a punt play, I don't, I mean, he's durable. I don't see him getting there outside of a finish, maybe an upset KO. It's very highly unlikely. And Whittaker either, I don't see him getting there. He's more of a methodical fighter. And he doesn't put out the volume. He's not really like a savage type of fighter where he's going for it. So I see it being more of a calculated striking type of situation, in which I think at 9,100, I think it's going to be tough for him to pay off that price tag for the way he fights and his fighting style. And I think Duplessis, outside of a finish, which I don't see him getting, I don't even like that even at 7,100. I don't like it.
And they're funny too, because I think people are going to be baited into that, Christine, because if you look at their market values here, you got Whittaker 9,100, 1 of 5. Current market value is 1 of 5. So he's hitting at both ends at 10%. If you look at Duplessis, 7,100, he's hitting at an 80% clip at 100 plus and 100% clip at his current market value. So there might be people that actually get baited into that.
Yeah, probably, but they can have fun with that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I agree. So we're both on the same page with that. So, how do you think this fight ends? You think Whittaker finishes this inside the distance? You think it goes to the cards?
So I think it will go to the cards, to be honest with you. I don't see Whittaker finishing him. I also don't see Duplessis. If anyone's going to finish anyone, maybe Duplessis can finish Whittaker. I think that's more possible in what I'm thinking. But I don't think there's a finish here. I think it's going to go to decision, and I think Whittaker will win, but I don't think he's going to be on the optimal. Maybe, but not.
All right.
Not likely for me. Not compared to the other fighters on this card that, Bo Nickal, we know he's probably going to get there. Maybe Volk, Hooker or Jalen Turner, and everyone else on the undercard where, the prelims, there's always a couple knockouts as well. So Whittaker in a low volume decision, I don't think he's going to get there, not at 9,100.
Okay. I tend to like fluctuate back and forth with that. I do agree with you. Like that $9,100 price tag, I look at that and I'm like, but then I say to myself, like, what if he really puts it on him? You know what I mean? So it's,
well, and when you say that puts it on him, like, how do you think he's going to rack up the points?
I just think like Duplessis, the moment might be too big for him. He might gas out. Whittaker might just start putting it on him and finish him sometime, maybe in the late second round. You know what I mean? But I agree with you.
But Whittaker, even in, the most he's scored have been either early finishes or a 5-round win. But in a 3-round win, he's like mid-grade.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's a problem with him.
I'm more on your side here. I don't think I could fade him totally, though, just for the mere fact that, like, I don't think Duplessis is good, and I could see a world where Whittaker runs through him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he's heavily touted by a lot of people on his come up through the UFC. I just don't. I think he's durable though. That's my only difference with what you're saying is I think he is durable. But I don't think he can get the win here. No.
Yeah, I agree. All right, the next fight, I don't even know where you're at with this fight, but something tells me we're going to be on two different sides of the fence.
Of course.
Okay, on this one. No, we're talking about we're aligned perfectly right now.
So far,
right.
so good.
So you got Jalen Turner 8,800, Hooker 7,400. You have Turner 4 or 5 100 plus, 4 or 5 current market value, so he's hitting at 80% cliff on both ends. You got Hooker 7,400, 100 plus, 1 of 5 current market value, 2 of 5, so he's sitting at a 10% and 20% on both sides, which obviously it looks a lot better for Jalen Turner. I went back and forth in this fight, and I actually did a show last week. Remember I told you I did the show last week?
Yes.
I did a show with somebody last week, Joe Pisapia. And Joe, if you're watching, I apologize, but I'm flipping my pick, right? So I went on his
the
show.
Old bait and switch.
Well, because I went on there and I did the breakdown, and I didn't get to really do my due diligence yet because it was a week early, So, but I went on and I broke it down, and I kind of just, broke it down from remembrance. Then when I really got deep into it, I flipped my pick, and I'm actually going Dan Hooker in this fight. And the reason why I'm going Hooker in this fight is because I think, if you really look at the landscape of Jalen Turner, I mean, Brock Weaver, Medic, Malarkey, Rydell, all good fighters, you know what I mean? But once he fought that one guy in Gamrot, like when he fought Gamrot was able to really slow down his pressure, slow down his volume, because he had to really be mindful of the takedowns, mindful of a different element of the game, not just striking. He couldn't really if he can't use his range, I feel like Jalen Turner is very capable of being had. And people look at Dan Hooker and they say, well, what?
I find it funny that those are the things you're mentioning, because I actually thought the same thing, but inversely. So I actually thought, because he's not good at closing the space. And I think Jalen Turner has the length to do that and knock him out.
Well, no, absolutely. No, that's where I'm getting at. So, but then when you look at Dan Hooker, you have a guy who everybody's saying, he's been, he's chinny, and he's not chinny. The guy's been through it. He's 33 years old. He's absolutely 1000% been through it. But if you look at his landscape, opposed to his losses, he lost to Michael Chandler. Okay, he beat Hapcrast. He lost to Makachev. He lost to Arnold Allen. He's not losing to bums. He's losing to legit top 5 guys, right? So, So when you look at that and you say, well, what is his path here to victory? Everybody's looking at his striking a little bit too much, but Dan Hooker does actually have some overlooked grappling. You know what I mean? He's a strong guy. He's a big guy. He's going to be small. Everyone's smaller than Jalen Turner when they get into the cage with him. He's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. He's a switch fighter, so he kind of switches on and off. But here's where he wins this fight. He's got to crash that pocket, and he's got to crash that pocket early. If he crashes the pocket early and he takes away that space and he locks him up against the cage and he locks his body down, and he has the ability and the success in taking Jalen Turner to the ground, I think he wins this fight. And I think you're going to know if he wins this fight within the first 2 minutes of this fight.
So what do you think about Jalen Turner's grappling then?
I think Jalen Turner's grappling is good, but I think people look at this guy's grappling much better than it actually is. There's a big difference when you have somebody that has good top pressure and control time and really can, has a good flow state when they're on top, to somebody who's just looking for chokes and just on top of you. Like Jalen Turner's got the long limbs. That's what makes his submission game, a threat. But when you look at him, where is his game? His game is from range. You're shooting on him. He's got the knees up the middle. You get into the clinch with him. He's got the longer attributes when it comes to range. But if you take that real estate away from him, look what Gamrot did. Gamrot was the much smaller guy that night. You know what I mean? And every time he needed it, he got the takedown. Anytime
I really hated that fight, because I was high on Jalen Turner that night. But Gamrot, I mean, he's excellent. He's an excellent grappler. So I can see what you're saying with Dan Hooker possibly.
I'm saying this ain't a thing from a betting perspective. Before we go to DFS, this isn't a fight where I'm telling you to go out and bet on Dan Hooker. I'm saying that I'm picking Dan Hooker, and if you want to bet this fight, this is a live betting opportunity that you're going to know exactly what his blueprint is within 2 minutes. If his blueprint is he's going to stand that range and he's going to spar with Jalen Turner, he's getting knocked out.
If that happens, yeah, exactly.
Getting knocked
out. That's how I see it playing out.
But if he closes the distance hard and fast, and even doesn't have success with a takedown, but locks him up on the cage, at least you know that's the path he's taken. I think he wins this fight. So I'm going Dan Hooker inside the distance.
That's great for you.
So go ahead, talk to me.
No, I you just threw me off so bad. But it's fine. I don't hate Dan Hooker as someone in that range, in the 7,400 or 7 to 8K range. He's not the worst play at his price, but he has been knocked out in the first round twice in his last 3 fights. And outside of landing some takedowns and possibly converting that to control time, I definitely prefer Jalen in the spot, because I think Hooker does have a problem with closing the space. I think he has a problem with getting in and out without getting unscathed. And I think Jalen Turner monopolizes on his limbs and his length and his height. And I do think I don't think he's an excellent grappler, but I do. Jalen Turner can hold his own. He's got some scrambling. Yeah, exactly. He's serviceable. Yes. And he scored over 100 DK fantasy points in 7 of his last 10 matchups. So there's that. And I think he has a huge advantage on the feet. I think on the mat, you have a point that maybe Dan Hooker could potentially work something out, but
you're making it sound like this guy's a bum.
No, I don't think he's a bum. I don't see Jalen Turner losing that way again, to be honest with you, either. I think he's probably focused in that area after being humiliated by Gamrot. So there's that as well.
Okay. Well, be in Discord, because maybe me and you will have a live bet in the second round.
Game on.
All right. So, all right. So you're saying that Turner is the play. Is there value? Would you say that there's good value on Hooker?
I like Hooker more than I like Plessis.
What? It's not saying much.
I think it's a decent play, but it depends on how it plays out. If it's on the feet, he's not gonna score well, because he's just gonna have low volume.
If he stays on the feet for 15 minutes, he's gonna lose.
He's gonna get knocked out. Yeah.
So you got to hope you got success, get a couple takedowns or some clinch position. But yeah, I don't know.
A couple of takedowns.
Like I said, it's not a fight. It's not a fight that I'm going to go throw money at, but I will be keeping a close eye in our Discord after that first round.
Same.
That's what I'll be doing. Yeah, you better be in there. All right. So next fight we got we had a cancellation here. It was supposed to be Bo Nickal versus Trezon Gore, 6,800, 6,400. I don't know if those prices are still true. That's what they were for Trezon Gore and Nickal. It's obviously that the UFC is looking to leash this guy. They're putting him on a leash. They brought in this guy that I call Van Bum. 7-0.
Yeah, he's 6,400.
6,400. So I say kept the rest the same. He did 7-0. Guy's got like 5. He's really there's no threat here. The UFC had so many different opportunities, so many different ways that they could angle this fight to bring somebody else in. They don't want to. This fight should not be on the main card because of who they brought in. I understand you want to showcase Bo Nickal, but put him on the prelims. Like you got Robbie Lawler's retirement fight. Like you have Robbie Lawler's possible retirement fight, and you're putting Nickal and Van Bum on the main card. Like really think about it. Think about some of these fights. Even the Jimmy Crute and Menifield fight, the rematch. Like how is that not on the main card, but this fight's on the main card? So it's clear and obvious that they're looking to showcase him. I don't got much to say about this fight. It's obviously
the hype train just. The hype train is money. And
the only way he loses this fight is if this dude does like an Alexander Hernandez and literally catches him like Alexander Hernandez caught Dariush.
No, I mean, I don't know much about Van Bum, but I'm not buying into it.
No, but I'm saying the only way he wins is like if is Alexander Hernandez versus Dariush when he caught him cold within like 30 seconds. When it, like as soon as that's it. Like there's no way he's out grappling him. There's no way he's gonna. It's no way. This is on a silver platter for him. But here's the question I have for you now. This is the big question. The big question is at $9,800. If he runs roughshod through this guy, but doesn't run roughshod through him in time for the bonus, but does it soon after, are you nervous that 9,800 might not be optimal?
It's definitely possible that could be the case. Yeah,
but that's realistic. That's realistic.
Yeah, it's realistic. It's a scary thought because obviously all of us want to just have an easy lock that's going to get you over 100 points. But that's a great point. It's a valid point. Over a minute, all you're going to get is the 90 points for the round win. And at that point, you might be at a disadvantage to the other people in that range that can do a lot better.
Like what happens, like think about it. What happens if the fight starts for the first 30 seconds, they're kind of feeling each other out. And then 45 seconds in, Nickal shoots a takedown, obviously gets it. And then like a minute and a half in, he hits him with like 1 or 2 shots, softens him up and gets a sub.
Yeah, then you're only getting 90 points.
Like 92, 93, because you got to give him the actually
the takedown.
The takedown. But there's no guaranteeing that's optimal.
No, I think if that's the way it plays out, that's not going to be optimal compared to, somebody that's getting, I don't know, first or second round win, that is 5 or 6 takedowns, something like that, or even even one of these 5-round fights with high volume takedowns and mixing everything else in that can score. I mean, we've seen up to recently like 140 fantasy points.
I wonder what the line is. I wonder what the line is to go to round 2.
Football Nickal?
To start round 2.
Let me see.
It should be, it's on the round props. To start round 2. I'm not going to do it. I'm just curious what the odds are.
I don't have a line for the round props for that fight yet. Not on DK.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. All right, there's no round prop. Okay, no round prop for that fight. It's not posted yet, but I'm curious. I just want to see. Like, I would never touch it, but I'm just curious to see. Sorry, so we're both on the same page with that. Obviously, he's a lock for cash, right? Cash game play. And DFS, obviously, he's more than likely, going to be optimal. But there is that territory where you got to wonder if he doesn't hit the bonus, within the bonus, and he kind of subs him soon after, or you could be in a kind of odd territory. So I think we're both on the same page there, no?
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to MME this, you could take something like you could put Volk, I don't know, Volk, Whittaker, Nickal, and whomever you like from the Jalen Turner fight, and just do like max 2 or 3 of them. And if you were going to play that narrative where he's not optimal, you just pick one of those guys over Nickal and you're saving salary and you'll have a different lineup. Then, I'm going to guess his ownership to come in at well over 40-50%. So if you were to do that and fade him and pick one of the other guys in the higher range and get that right, then you can ship it.
Well, there's one 9,000 guy that I actually like, maybe a little bit more than him. To score, and we won't talk about that here, but I'm gonna talk about it on the podcast and the live stream. So if you guys are interested in full breakdowns, full DFS wagers, private podcast, live stream before the card, full fighter analytics, everything you possibly need for wagering, for DFS, or if you just want to read, learn, hop in a Discord and hang out for the night, we're doing an awesome special this week. It's $14.99 for the week. That gives you full access to everything. It gives you full access to the Discord, every possible thing. So even if it's just you guys want to come and hang out with us in the Discord and sweat the fights with us, we do live betting in the Discord and stuff like that. I mean, it's $14.99. You can't even go to fucking Burger King for that. So, come and check it out. The WWO, the MadLab. I just said WWW.
Your age is showing.
So MadLabMMA.com, and the promo will be up on the homepage. So go check that out. All right. So because that fight is kind of a throwaway fight, me and Christine decided to break down one more fight. You have time to do that?
Yes, always.
Okay. Do you want to? Do you want to do the Menafield Crute fight? Are we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So Menafield Crute, this is a rematch, and this is a fight that is priced 8,200, 8,000, and these are usually the fights where you got to get right on it from a DraftKings perspective. It's like right in the middle of the sandwich. I use a process in DraftKings where I hedge just enough to make sure I have enough of both sides, but I lean one way. I got to tell you, when you look at Jimmy Crute and you look at Menafield, the one flaw that both of these guys have shown me is they both have terrible cage IQ. Terrible cage IQ. In their first fight, Menafield had a point deducted for grabbing the cage. It ended up turning out to be a draw. He should have won that fight, but he lost that fight on his own accord. Jimmy Crute, on the other hand, had a perfect path to victory, an easy path to victory, where he was taking down Menafield. He had the grappling advantage.
He had it in the first round.
And he decides to get into a jock measuring contest with him and strike with him. So it's almost like both of these guys' cage IQs really aren't that great. They both can be baited into the opposition's fight. But when you look at the success that Crute did have when he was grappling, it was very clear that he had the grappling advantage. He was very, very. Yeah. I mean, when you have Menafield, almost knocked him out in the second round, where the horn kind of saved Crute. But, overall, when you look at that fight in the whole, anytime he got the fight to the ground, like he did have success grappling. So if he learned anything from this fight, I think the clear path for him is, listen, I'm not going to firefight this guy. I tasted his power. He almost knocked me out in the second round. I'm going to use my grappling. I'm going to live or die with it, whether he's going to have better takedown defense this time or he's going to shuck my takedowns off. I'm not going to stand and fight with this guy. I'm not going to take the chance of getting knocked out. I'm going to take him to the ground, and I'm going to either win or lose my fight underwater. So I like Crute here, and I think Crute can actually submit him late. So I think one of these guys are going to finish the fight. I think it's either going to be Crute by submission or Menafield by knockout, but I'm going Crute by submission. I think it's a much more clear path that he has, because he was competitive on the feet with Menafield, where Menafield really can't compete with him on the ground. So when you look at the current market values and stuff, you got Crute 2 of 5, 100 plus. Current market value 2 of 5. So both sides, he's hitting at a 40% clip. Menafield, the same exact thing, 2 of 5, 2 of 5, 40% clip. So what do you got for this?
If you're gonna MME this fight, I would do split exposure.
Explain to people who don't know exactly what MME is.
Mass multi-entry.
You got to be deep, because some of these people are new that are listening to the show. They don't know. You know what I mean?
So basically, if you play one lineup in a single entry contest, that's single entry. If you're going to play, I would say 3 or more, I would consider that MMA. I usually like the model that we use with our, system where I like to play at least 10 to 20, especially on cards like this, especially on in between cards where there's a lot of underdogs. I like to do that because, as you know, nothing is a lock, and at least that gives you the opportunity to swap off of people that could ruin a potentially good core. So what I like to do is have 3 or 4 fighters that I'm more than 80% confident in, and I will keep them as my core. And then with your MMA, you can adjust the exposure percentage on both sides of whatever other fights you want to play, and then you can have it, like a roulette or something, and have it just hit the builds.
All right, good. Yeah, we got to get, just because you never know who's watching. There's new people that are watching, and we want more people to come into the DFS community and not be afraid of it. So
so for example, for that fight, Crute Menafield, I would say if I want to go 60-40, I'm going to have 6 at it. Let's call it 10 lineups. 6 of those lineups will have whoever I think the winner is, which I kind of like Menafield a little bit more than Crute, but I completely agree with you. I can see Crute has a clear path to victory. He clearly had him in the first round of that rematch fight. but I also think Menifield has that one-shot power, and he has the striking accuracy. I did like the striking accuracy there, but he's pretty weak on the mat, so that's something to be cautious about.
All right, yeah, I agree. I think we're on the same page on every fight pretty much. And also, even though you announced it, but you didn't technically announce it before we get out of here, what is your dog pick of the week?
Pantoja.
Yeah. This is the fourth week in a row. We're on the same page.
I know we've been crushing it.
We've been crushing it. We're on it's like a three fight win streak with the dogs.
We're 3-1.
3-1.
Because we had one unfortunate loser in there.
Which one?
A bad one.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, I'm trying to think. Which one was it? We were both on the same side.
It was.
Usually when we're on the same side.
It wasn't last week. It was the week before.
No, it was last week. We had Rosbeth on.
This week we had Carolina.
Carolina, that's right. Yeah.
But the week before was a no-go.
All right, I got to look back at it. All right, well, listen,
Yeah.
for more Showdown, Christine.
Well, I mean, that's in the last 4 weeks. I was in the last 6 weeks. We're 5-1.
Yeah.
So
so
we're crushing it.
Slaying that. For more Christine Showdown and myself, you can come over and hang out with us all night in the Discord, sweat the fights, get all the content, have a good time with us. Go to the MadLabMMA.com, $14.99 for the week. Get everything. Christine, you got anything else to say before we get out of here?
Nope, best in the industry. It's proven week after week. The price of and what you're getting in this promo is almost unheard of. It's a fantastic value. I have been part of this for a very long time, and all we do is win, win, win.
Oh, God. All right, well, guys, good luck this weekend. Come join us. If not, come check us out on the Twitter machines with the names underneath our videos, and we will talk to you soon. We are out.
Thank you. Bye.